I'm Vinny Politan. We begin with some breaking news tonight here on Closing Arguments, all involving the death of Gabby Petito. Okay, I want to start the story off by showing you pictures of Gabby Petito because we're going to spend a lot of time talking about her boyfriend slash fiance, but let's not lose sight of what this case is about and who the victim is. There she is. Should be alive today, is not, the victim of a homicide. Now, Brian Laundrie, still on the lam, still somewhere hiding from everyone. There's a huge search for him, and that search perhaps heating up a little bit today because of the breaking news. A federal arrest warrant has been issued for Brian Laundrie. You are commanded to arrest and bring before a United States magistrate judge without unnecessary delay, Brian Christopher Laundrie, who is accused of an offense or violation based on the following document filed with the court. It's an indictment for use of unauthorized access devices, okay? So the charge in the indictment is not murder, has nothing to do with the homicide, but it's things that Brian Laundrie allegedly did after the homicide. Again, use of unauthorized access devices. We'll get into that in just a minute. But first, joining us tonight in Venice, Florida, incredible reporter with our great affiliate WFTS, Julie Salamone, is back with us. Julie, thank you so much. I know you guys are busy down there. We appreciate your time. What's been the reaction, if any, down in Florida to these federal charges coming out of Wyoming against Brian Laundrie and now this federal arrest warrant?
Well, as soon as that federal arrest warrant was issued, the FBI made the announcement this afternoon. I reached out to Brian's attorney, and he was very quick to point out that this arrest warrant is just for unauthorized credit card use, completely unrelated to Gabby Petito's death. So beyond that, he didn't really have much more of a comment, but just very quick to point out that it's for unrelated charges. So we know that it was unauthorized credit card use in Wyoming with a debit card and involving 2 PIN numbers.
Okay, and we've seen that before in other cases, where there's initial charges as they continue this investigation, but they must have a great digital footprint for what happened here. Now, the search in Florida, where was the search focused today?
Well, once again, authorities have been back out at the Carlton Reserve throughout the day. They concluded their search again around 7 o'clock. They announced that they did not find anything. They will be back out here again tomorrow. Authorities said that they're doing these grid searches, but they did not comment if it's just on one particular area or rather they're trying to comb through the entire park here. This is 25,000 acres, and the search can be difficult at times. There are alligators, there are snakes, and 75% of the land out here is underwater, so a lot of hiking and biking trails underwater from the rain.
Now, I want to show the folks at home some video that we have received, and this is Brian Laundrie's parents returning home at some point today, getting out of the pickup truck. There we see them. Some questions being asked, but obviously not answered by the parents. Brian's parents had a little bit of a busy day. We got this video of them returning home, but they also spent some time with police, didn't they?
Well, Brian's attorney, the family attorney, was very quick to point out that they were in fact not speaking to police, but rather they were able to retrieve the Mustang. That is the Mustang that was seized on Monday during the FBI search warrant on the house. Northport Police confirming tonight that they did in fact give the Mustang back, and that Mustang is now back in possession by the parents. Brian's attorney also pointing out today that he met with the parents in Orlando. So crews that were watching that house today saw a lot of activity at the house, the parents coming and going, and also saw that Mustang return to the driveway.
Okay, and how about in the community? What's been the reaction locally, in the neighborhood and in the entire community to what is happening with this search? And now you've got charges and, of course, the whole nation invested in this story.
Well, there are growing memorials everywhere, but more specifically outside City Hall in Northport, a growing memorial in memory of Gabby Petito. And one thing Gabby Petito's dad told me, Joe Petito, before all of the national attention, he told me people can have empathy for him, they can feel sorry for him, they can support him. But until you're in his shoes, until you have a child that goes missing and you don't know what happened to your child, he says he can't even begin to explain what that feels like. He described it as drowning.
Wow. Incredibly difficult, incredibly difficult. Julie Salamone, we appreciate your reporting tonight, joining us live from Venice, Florida, WFTS, our great affiliate. We'll talk again. Thanks so much. All right, let's bring in our think tank tonight, get some reaction to this big breaking news. Joining us tonight in the Bronx, New York, criminal defense attorney Renee Hill. In Houston, Texas, criminal defense attorney Carmen Rowe. And in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, law professor at Emory University and the Georgia Innocence Project board member, Molly Parmer. Great to see everyone tonight. Okay, arrest warrant issued Renee Hill, not for murder, but for use of unauthorized access devices, and as we've learned, using the credit card, apparently, of Gabby, and maybe using some of Gabby's PIN numbers after her death. Those are the allegations, so it seems that investigators are on this in putting a timeline together because they are specifically saying this is all done after she is dead.
Right. So, the investigators are doing their job. They're trying to piece everything together at this point. And now they have something that can at least bring Mr. Laundrie into custody if they can find him, and then potentially have additional charges lodged against him once they get a complete finding from the medical examiner, right? Because we know that they've deemed it to be a homicide, but they haven't determined the actual manner of the death yet. And then it's going to be whether or not they can connect him to the actual homicide. But for right now, they have this charge, and that is sufficient for a warrant to be ordered. And now it'll be enough for them to get him if they can locate him.
Okay, Carmen, you're going to have a hard time now because you're going to have to respond to something that Renee just teed up for me. They're going to have to somehow connect him? Somehow connect him? Are we kidding? All right, we've already got him using her credit cards and her PIN number to get money after she's dead. He doesn't tell anybody. He's driving her car. He's with her. He's on the side of the road. They're on August 12th in the middle of some domestic violence.
Maybe he left her. Maybe he drove off. Doesn't mean that he killed her.
Okay. Carmen, why, when he came home, if he just left her, did he need a criminal defense attorney?
Vinny, I got to say, I think these people are in a world of trouble. But what I think is fascinating, if not fun about the whole thing, is that this is a situation where the family and this potential defendant have mounted a defensive theory so early on. And so you would expect, with all the outcry in the community, that law enforcement and even the father of this victim would act out quickly, and they're not. They're being very calculated. They're being patient. And they're playing this close to the vest. And so seeing this warrant lets you know how serious they're taking this and how they are getting their ducks in a row rather than reacting to something that they may let get out of their control. And so, the family, as I understand it, of Brian is actually under surveillance by police. And so, this is that cat and mouse game that goes on between defendants who mount up early on and law enforcement who's trying to get their man. So there's a lot that we're going to see going forward in this case.
Molly, this is problematic. This is problematic for Brian Laundrie, because if they're able to put together the fact that he's using her credit cards and her PIN number after she's dead, that means they are able to really put together some sort of a timeline here. And to me, that means they are very close and probably just waiting for some autopsy results here.
Yeah, possibly, Vinny. Here's why I think it's problematic, and then maybe not so much problematic. This is a charge, a federal charge, as you said, 18 USC 1029A1. It's actually a white collar charge. It's like from the Computer Fraud Abuse Prevention Act. And I imagine the feds are going to have to act quickly if they do have enough to connect him to the murder. Now, can this be a federal murder? It actually can, assuming that it happened on the Grand Teton National Forest land. That's federal land. So they can bring a federal murder charge. But what I think about as somebody who practices very frequently in federal courts is that that bond hearing is going to be going off of that indictment. And if it's just a single white collar access device fraud charge, he might be bondable. Obviously, he's been on the run, but the feds need to act quickly if they want to charge federal murder, and they need to have it all superseded on a new indictment by the time he has that first appearance.
Yeah. My concern, though, with the feds, Renee, is that federal prosecutors don't like these kinds of cases. You know, these are the kinds of cases that state prosecutors handle. You know, a crime happens, you figure out who did it, and you charge them, right? We know what the feds like to do. The feds like to kind of set up the crime and help the crime along a little bit and get 3 or 4 people as unindicted co-conspirators, as witnesses, 3 audio tapes, 2 videotapes, and a confession, right? You're not going to have any of that here. There's been complete silence. Yeah. So my fear is that these prosecutors will not move quickly on murder charges here and will be a little timid and won't be as aggressive as state prosecutors are, who are used to doing cases like this where a crime happens, you solve it, and you charge the person.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. So, you know, they have this one single charge that they have sworn out in the warrant for him. And I think that that's what they're going to focus on. But this case has garnered so much attention that, you know, perhaps there will be a little more fire under them, more than what would normally be if it were not in the media, the way this case has taken on so much attention.
Molly, I want to ask you about Carmen, I want to ask you about the parents in this case. And we saw their movements today. Do you think they are being investigated right now as to whether or not everything that they've told them, have told authorities, is truthful with the whereabouts and disappearance of their son, Brian Laundrie? Because I think they're looking for a way to kind of put a knee, not a knee, but you know, kind of like squeeze them a little bit, right? Squeeze them. Because if anyone has information here about what happened to Gabby and where Brian Laundrie is, it would be these 2 people, would be the only ones that could potentially have that information.
Vinny, you're absolutely right. And the fact that the feds are involved, like you said, I mean, they're all about squeezing people. And look, these parents are under surveillance because it appears that they may or may not have information and may or may not be actually helping their son. I mean, there were neighbors who said that Brian's parents bought a new camper after Gabby was missing and before Brian went missing. And so there's some speculation about what role they're playing in all this. And if anybody's going to figure it out, it's the feds. And yes, they're going to squeeze them if they have any role whatsoever. And the fact that they're under surveillance tells us a lot about what law enforcement thinks may be their role in this case. And again, the fact that they won't talk to law enforcement, they won't help authorities, even after their son is supposed to be missing, is telling.
Molly Palmer, should they have their own attorney?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They definitely should have their own attorney. I think, you know, it's interesting because the attorney that's currently representing Brian, I don't even know if he is able to try a federal case in the District of Wyoming, right? I think everybody's going to need a lawyer here. And certainly the parents are probably under suspicion for potential obstruction or harboring a fugitive at this point. So yes, lawyer up, always, Vinny.
All right.
And if they've answered any questions, Vinny, to the feds, if they have lied to the feds just by saying, we don't know where he is or we don't know what he did, if they have lied to a federal agent, Molly can tell you that's a 5-year count right there. Just for
federal
that
false
simple
statements,
lie.
absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, we'll see how this thing develops, but this is huge news that the arrest warrant has been issued. It looks like federal jurisdiction, at least so far for these charges. And as Molly pointed out, if she died in federal property and they believe she was murdered on federal property in a national park, then it'll be a federal prosecution for murder. And again, folks, that has me a little worried. It just does, because trust me, yes, they're great prosecutors. They're very smart. They have lots of resources, but they're just not used to trying cases where, there could maybe potentially be some itsy-bitsy piece of reasonable doubt. They just don't try those cases. All right. Our think tank's going to stay with us. When we come back, we're going to take you live to Brooklyn, New York. Things winding down in the case against R&B superstar R. Kelly. We'll have a live report from Julie Janae next.